if you guys have listened to us talk in previous episodes, you kind of have an idea, I think, on what our thoughts are on financial advisors. But I want to say this, because I thought about this answer a little bit, and I don't want to like bash on financial advisors. I think that gets done a lot in the financial space, but you got to think about who's talking about it when they're bashing on the financial advisors. It's finance bros. It's people who are in the space. They're in the trenches. They're doing the research. They're reading the topics. They know what VTSAX and chill means. Like, people out in the people in the real world, but people outside of like the finance space have no idea. If you ask them what VTI means, they would have no idea.
Right.
So to a lot of people that I have conversations with, because people in my town have conversations with me because they know I'm kind of in what I do and whatnot, and they want my opinions on things. And of course, the first thing they always ask me about is NFTs or crypto. It's like, hey man, what do you think about NFTs? I'm like, oh my God. Come on.
And they still think that Bitcoin and crypto are the same shit.
Yeah, yes.
Guy asked me the other day, he's like, how much crypto you got? I'm like, I'm all in Bitcoin. He's like, yeah, but which one? I was like,
Bitcoin. Yeah. No, that's my thing though, dude. It's just like, what I'm getting at is we got to separate ourselves when I answer this from the finance space. Because for some people, what may seem easy or so simple for us is very, very intimidating for most people. Money is intimidating. And whenever you start looking at stock charts and line graphs and a buy-sell button, a limit order, market order, how to even deposit the money into the account. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that once you put the money into a Roth, that you still have to go and invest the money.
yes.
And like to some of us listeners, maybe like, well, how would you not know that? But that's the same thing as like a mechanic who can replace a transmission, like looking at the back of his hand, and then some Joe Schmo off the streets has no idea how to pull an engine out and replace a transmission and do whatever. I can't replace a transmission. I've never done that before, and that would be very intimidating for me because that's not my line of expertise. I'm not a transmission guy. I'd have to have somebody do that for me. So I wanted to start it off by saying like, I don't want to like be bashing on people who have financial advisors. But I do want to say this. There are very easy steps that you can take to get rid of a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I want to start it a little bit, I guess. I didn't want to jump in and be like, F all financial advisors, they suck, they're taking all your money.
I would never even tell anybody to get rid of their financial advisor.
Yeah.
I'm not telling people what to do here.
Agreed.
Like, I'm not advising on that, but I would say that 99% of people don't. And when I said I was going to open up Sweet, I said, I know people that it's good for. If you are 85 years old and you don't have any next of kin left, then yeah, you might want to pay somebody to help you manage your money. This is the same as like, I know how to change a light bulb. I know how to change a light switch. I know basic electricity. Some people need to pay someone to do that. Right. Could you just go on YouTube and figure out and Google how to? Yes, some people don't have effing time for that or care that much.
They don't want to spend the time.
Like the dude across the street, what I see him pay, he paid somebody like $85 to blow out his gutters with a leaf blower. I said, dude, I would have done it for $50.
Yeah,
but that's
right.
Like, he has a lot of money. It's very, very low on his priority list, right? Maybe if you don't care about the fees, then if it's been set it and forget it, and if it quote ain't broke, don't fix it, then I'm not. That's why I never tell anybody to get rid of it.
That's a great point you bring up, Brad, because a lot of things people don't think about also is if you didn't have a financial advisor, would you even be investing money? Period.
Probably have nothing. Yeah.
So that's something to think about also.
And also, too, I think that times have changed. Like, we don't realize that the Roth IRA is like 25 years old. Mm-hmm. The 401k is in the late 70s. So it's like, depending on their age or whatnot, just like if my grandfather was still alive and I said, Grandpa, if I want to buy a stock, I take out this little piece of electronics in my pocket I click two little buttons and I buy stock. He would be like, he'd roll over, like, you don't have to call a broker and then they
Right.
got to call and they got to call you back. Like, times have also changed. So if somebody entered the market through that way with a financial advisor and a broker or whatnot, and that's where they're at, but you have to at least open their doors. And like, I think the only financial advice that you need, and I probably should do a video on this, but like, because I've done the video on the simple path to wealth, and it is very VTSAX Vanguard forward. But if you pair that with the psychology of money, those two books are all the financial advice you'll ever need.
Yeah.
It is like, I used to be a big fan of Dave Matthews, and I used to remember being like, man, I wish I wrote that song. And when I read The Simple Path to Wealth, I thought to myself the entire time,
Man, I wish I wrote that book.
I wish I wrote this book.
That's a solid one.
Because it goes far beyond, like, even beyond The Simple Path to Wealth. Because The Simple Path to Wealth gives you a strategy and kind of tells you why. But like, the psychology of money triggers every insecurity about money that you could have, justifies that insecurity, and then helps you get through it. So I bring that up because if you are somebody that has a financial advisor, one of the main reasons you probably don't want to leave it is because of that fear of change, because of the insecurities that you have with personal finance and money. It's at least worth. Here's the thing because this has come up on my consulting calls. And like I said, I would never tell anybody to leave their financial advisor. All right, so here's what I tell people when they ask me if they should ditch their financial advisor. I say no. But I would like you to ask them one question. And we've talked about this, so this question might have come up. I want you to ask your financial advisor this question and see if they bullshit you. And you'll know, right? It's kind of like when you catch your wife in a lie and she just starts backpedaling and she's not in trouble. You're just like, I got you. And no. Ask them, why not VTSAX? Be like, my buddy, he told me that his entire retirement is in the total stock market index fund.
You're saying to ask the financial advisor this.
Yep. Don't fight. I want you to ask your financial advisor and see if they bullshit you, because then you'll know what kind of person they are. If they start backpedaling, there's nothing that a financial advisor can offer you that is better than VTSAX over the long term. They're going to tell you they get better this, they get better returns. It's all short term.
Can I tell you what you want to hear from your financial advisor?
Yes.
If you ask him that.
All right, so JJ, you're my financial advisor. Hey, my buddy, they got all of this money tied up in just one total stock market index fund or some VT something or other. Like, why aren't I in index funds?
So great question, Brad. So to answer that, your buddy is correct. VTSAX is a wonderful investment vehicle. For me and how I'm set up, I don't have access to invest your funds into VTSAX. I have a selection of mutual funds that I can select. But to replicate that to the best of my abilities, I can throw you in something like an Invesco S&P 500 index. That's a 0.5% expense ratio. It's not quite as cheap as a VTSAX, but if you feel comfortable with me doing this for you, then that's probably the best bet and the best thing I can match you with that lowest expense ratio, as well as getting that S&P 500 return as well.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you want to hear.
First and foremost, they should be a fiduciary.
Yes.
Right? And if you don't know what that means, it's a fancy, long, stupid word that means that they have to operate in your best interest. The most common is a lawyer, right? Like, a lawyer can't take the information and use it for their benefit. Like, a car salesman is not a fiduciary. They are giving you the business to help themselves the best.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the trade state, I know things are changing. They're trying to make everyone that talks money have to be a fiduciary, but I don't know if you still have to be. I'm pretty sure like they're transitioning all CPAs over to being fiduciaries and things like that, but I mean, it's a hard and it's an awkward question. Like, hey, you're a fiduciary, but it probably says in their paperwork they most likely are, because if they are, they have to give the answer that Jay just gave. They have to say, I can't, because Jay's right. They don't have access to everything, but it doesn't have to be VTSAX. Shit, it could be a target date fund. I mean, those are expensive as well, but this is, I don't think you should ever have to fire your financial advisor, because maybe you just don't care. And in this situation with this question, I'm sure he does care, but he's probably trying to have either a hard time getting his dad to care, or doesn't know how to propose it to his father. Like, hey, but if I was him and like he had already brought it up with his dad, I would ask him, Dad, I won't bring this up again. You're my father. All I ask is that you thumb through this book, The Simple Path to Wealth, and tell him that you bought the book for him, because I'm sure he's bought you something more than $14 in your life, and hold him accountable and ask him about it. And I think it would be very, very hard for somebody with intelligence not to see why you don't necessarily need a financial advisor if you care enough to learn and you're going to be doing this long term. You know?
Yeah.
But Cindy makes a great point that financial advisors are also used for more than investing advice.
So I actually have a note right here that I want to get to on that. So
Yeah.
I want to hold off on that in a second.
Yeah.
Because there was a point I wanted to make too with to really answer this voicemail is, if it was me and this was my dad and I was sitting at the kitchen table having a Bud Light with my pops, I would tell my dad and I would explain it to him the best way that I can, in the simplest terms, pretty much saying, Dad, you're overpaying for something that you could be doing with about 5 minutes worth of work.
Right.
And I'll explain to him, one, how he's losing the money, look at the fees, and explain what the fees will do 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But two, I would explain to him how simple it would be easy for me to help him set this up. I've done this for my dad. I set up my dad's Roth IRA, my mom's Roth IRA, and it automatically comes out of their bank account. They never have to worry about it again. Never. They just got to make sure they got the money in the bank that's going to come out. That's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. I would make it, and even draw it out. Or, I mean, your dad, what the easiest way for him to understand something. Yeah. That's what I would do. And I would just sit down and be like, Dad, listen, this is what this is doing. This is why this is more expensive. If we just do this XYZ over here in a Vanguard or Fidelity account and invest it into VTSAX or, FDIAX, whatever Fidelity's, index fund is of that, you're going to be set. And then we'll have an automatic withdrawal come out.
Before we get to Cindy's point, another thing I'm thinking of too, depending on their age, it may not be worth the squeeze or something like that. What's that? The juice may not be worth the squeeze. Like, if Dad's like 80, he's already got kicked in the face in fees, and it may, over the course of the next 20 years that he's alive, I know it compounds just like anything else, but it may not necessarily be worth it. That well.
So that leads to my note, both what you and Cindy said, and I literally have here, it says, gets complicated once you retire.
Yes.
So that's another big milestone, or not milestone, but that's another big hurdle that people not in the finance space understand. When I have conversations with my buddies and they're like, well, how do you exactly, people don't understand, you can pull principal to live off of for retirement, or you can live off dividends, or you can live off cash for I remember not knowing that. Yeah. I remember not understanding that concept of exactly how retirement worked. I knew retirement was a thing, but I didn't know exactly how you survived in retirement. So that's where another thing where financial advisors come in. They can set up a plan for you for retirement. So yes. That I'm gonna sit here and say, dude, I'm gonna say that not every although financial advisors,
not all bad. No,
although financial advisors may not be for everyone,
right? They
are there for a reason. You just have to. I will say this: there are good and bad ones. And you got to
just
find the good
just
ones.
like insurance agents, just like anything, there's
Yep.
good and bad ones, and like this is not. I wish I had like somebody off the top of my head where I'd tell people. Oh, here's an example: like whole life insurance policies. I will flat out tell people to run. Universal whole life insurance policies. I have you'll never change my mind as long as I live.
Yeah.
You'll sit me in a chair, duct tape me down. You'll never change my mind.
Agreed.
This is not how we feel. We're saying that I don't think it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But like I mentioned before, some people don't want or don't care to learn it. And it's